Wendy Fauque.
I'm Korey Fauque. We're a diverse cropping system and cattle intensive grazing system here 4 miles south of Sunburst. We were both working at CHS, and I was an agronomist and she was a grain marketing person, so we have that kind of diverse educational background. But then we got some cattle. Dad decided to retire in 2012, so we took the farm over.
And then we decided to move forward with a little bit more retail beef end of things. We've got about 70 head of Aberdeen Angus breed. They're a little bit smaller framed animal, and they're a little bit more efficient in the amount of feed that they consume versus the amount of output or beef that they produce in the end. We'll supplement with a little bit of added protein in the wintertime, but for the most part, they're just all completely grass-fed.
Where we're at right now actually is out in one of the pastures that we're just finishing intensive grazing across. This will be the second time now. And so where they're grazing right now, they won't graze again for a whole year. Basically, they only get 1 day in here. We're actually realizing between smaller cattle and intensive grazing, there's 30% more calves. It actually equals out to more beef per acre, which is more income per acre. And we've been super happy with how that's turned out. We've at least doubled the grass production in this pasture for sure. There's multiple benefits here. Obviously, first off, we're concentrating the manure and spreading it out throughout each strip when they graze it, so we're not transferring manure from here back to the tanks. That allows these dung beetles to ramp back up as well. And so those dung beetles are one of the biggest parts of cycling all these nutrients back in the ground. There's some red ones. They like to hide back in there. And so now when you look across here, it's all pretty much dark green because all of the nutrients are getting placed right where they graze, and then they're only touching this grass for 1 day a year and then getting off of it, so it allows the roots to recover too. So it's just pretty exciting to watch how all this is changing from when we used to just let them out here and just let them graze the whole thing for a month.
It really improves pasture ground quickly to intensive graze.
This all was white behind us before, anywhere that you see where there's the foxtail or the cheatgrass back there. We've made a huge impact on that saling area, and hopefully within a few years we have this all back to grass, basically, where it was wasteland. Normally we would put something in cover crop and start grazing it probably around the first part of July. We've seen some really awesome returns as far as the amount of nitrogen we have available in the ground, like the spring wheat we can look at or whatever. It doesn't even have fertilizer placed on it, and it had 100 and some pounds of nitrogen available after taking a cover crop last year off of it.
In our area, it is common to have tight clay soils that will compact, and you'll get like cracks on the soil and a layer so that the water can't even infiltrate. But as they grow the more diverse crops, leave the residue, it restores that aggregation. You get more earthworms, so more macropores. You turn that corner, that cycle, to start building soil rather than depleting it.
It really does smell like, it smells like you plowed the field, right?
Oh yeah. When it's healthy soil, you smell the gases and the biology at work, at play. So it's like life. I mean, when there's critters in the soil, there's life, and you see it and smell it. We're protecting our natural resource. We're protecting the soil from eroding, keeping water able to infiltrate and go into the soil instead of runoff, carrying off nutrients, sediment. So it's protecting soil, our water, helping with the wildlife.
This farm's probably been a no-till for 20 years.
With the disc drill, it's just gonna cut it. From 1 inch to just a tiny, just slicing the soil instead of ripping it. And it makes that much less disturbance. EQIP helps incentivize making those management changes.
2 years ago, I guess, we started bale grazing. The big benefit for us is not starting that tractor every single day in 20 below weather. It's way more efficient. I believe it costs less. So what we'll do is we'll put a week's worth of feed out in the pasture for the cattle wherever they're at, and just put the bales on end and cut the strings and just leave them there, and they just sort of feed themselves. You would think that they would just eat it all on day 1, 2, and 3 and then just be starving the rest of the week, but they're pretty much content all week long, and it's really good for the ground too. All of that waste there, the manure there, gets incorporated back into the soil, and they're just really nitrogen rich spots there and grow really nice stands of grass.
Lots of awesome education that the NRCS is doing. We go to all these soil health workshops, and EQIP and Misty's knowledge and everything is really helpful.
I come to their tours. They have these field day tours that are just, I've learned more from them, I think, than what they've ever learned from the USDA, the NRCS at our office. I really appreciate that they bring a perspective of their on-the-ground agriculture, and even from the insurance side of things, it kind of broadens my perspective and kind of bridges that. I feel like they're as much employees of NRCS as I am. They're so good, they're willing to try things that are a little on the edge. It's like they're trying to help other people not have those same failures.
We're both, I think, pretty passionate about the fact that the direction we're going in is right. We have a pretty good sized customer base and people seem interested in trying to switch, and we just like to share what we're doing, the good and the bad. This whole area is changing a lot, isn't it, for the better, I think.
Yeah, it is.